Perhaps we haven't met. I'm Discord.
Another chaotic battle!
Taste the scream of death.
Greetings, comrades. This is 88Kelu, and we're back with another chaotic deck review. Man, it has been a while. So right here, we have a Danian infection deck. So, just a bit of a note prior, but there are several cards that I would have liked for this deck that would have definitely made a improvement in some way or another, and I will get to those shortly. I will also, I think, be trying to make another infect deck that uses mixed tribes, so that should be interesting. So, now that we're done with that little shenanigan, let's get down to the actual cards. So, first up in the front line, we have Jal. This guy is pretty great for the deck, although he has low courage. Although he does have low courage, this is a bit of a courage deck, so I was also considering giving him a armband of lore. That still might be a possible option, but his ability is when he deals earth damage to an uninfected creature, infect that creature. If the opposing engaged creature is infected, he gains earth 5. So that's really good, especially because most of the attacks in this deck are earth attacks. He also, and the battle gear that I've decided to give him is the Zerum armor, because he only has 55 health and you want to keep him active for as long as possible. The other option would have been the Drill Dozer, or as previously mentioned, the Armbands of Lore, which would mean he would just have 60 health, but instead of this one having 35 courage, he'd have, I believe, 75 courage, if my math is correct. Then, of course, we have Draz. Draz is pretty essential for many Danian decks. He has Earth and Water, but we don't care about Water. While infected, so you want to infect Draz, he gains Earth 5. He also has Hive, Outperform Courage 5, which can be useful on several occasions. And he has 60 energy and 80 courage, and the battle gear I've given him is the Danian Carapace. So when he deals damage to an uninfected creature, infect that creature. If Draz were to die, I then swap this battle gear in for the opponent battle gear, the opponent who defeated him's battle gear. So the point is then that the infection will continue even if they're infecting my creatures, which in many cases actually helps my guys if they are infected. So then on the last guy on the front line, we have Elhad, because he has high courage, 105. He also has Earth, and when he is in the discard pile, all Mandiblores can outperform courage 5. And of course, if someone's infected, they count as a Mandiblore. Which is helpful because I believe the only Mandiblores here might actually be Draz and Elhad. And of course, Draz can't count himself. Yeah, so Draz and Elhad are the only Mandiblores here. Anyway, so I've decided to give him the Vlaric Shard so he has Earth 5. So nothing that major. Once again, I could also potentially give him a Evergreen Tunic or a Drill Dozer just so his energy is 70 instead of 50. But now let's get to the main guys of the deck, apart from Jal. So we have Ambalox. Ambalox has the ability to expend water and infect target creature. He doesn't have Earth, so you don't really want him to fight, but in case he gets in a fight, I've given him a Gigan Trooper, just because honestly I couldn't think of anything that would work for him better. Except maybe a weightless energy vessel or a Chalor, but I already have the weightless energy vessel on someone else. And he has 2 Mugicians and 65 courage. So the Gigant Trooper, obviously, if he gets in battle, all of his stats will be 70, including his energy. So then we have Lendia. He has the Bronze Flight, so he has Defender from range in order to protect Ambalox and Macrobon. Trying to give you guys a better look here. Sorry, the angle for this camera is a bit strange. He has 90 courage, earth and water, we don't really care about water, 60 energy, and while he is uninfected, he has water 5, don't care about that, but while he is infected, he may not be the target of Mugic or abilities. Which is amazing, but I don't think that would stop a card like Cannon of Casualty from destroying his battle gear, because that targets the battle gear and not the creature. And then we have Macrobon. So when Macrobon gains a Mugic counter, infect target uninfected creature. And then his other ability, sacrifice a Mugic counter, activate or deactivate Hive, which only applies to Draz. He has 35 energy, 20 courage. He's not really intended to fight. He has a weightless energy vessel. Now, here comes some of the amazing combos. So in our Mugic deck, we have Strain of Infection. This card with Macrobon is insane. So costs 0 Mugic counters, uninfect up to 3 infected creatures. Target Danian gains a Mugic counter for each creature uninfected this way. So what you want to do is, as soon as there are 3 uninfected creatures on the battlefield, cast this. You can cast it with anybody. Uninfect those 3 creatures. Macrobon gains 3 Mugic counters, and because Macrobon gains 3 Mugic counters, you can then infect 3 creatures, meaning that this Mugic is basically just 3 free Mugic counters. Then we have a Cadence Clash, and I decided instead of going with a second Cadence Clash to go with a Refrain of Denial, because the good thing about Cadence Clash is that you can counter any Mugic. The bad thing is your opponent, if they have the Mugic counters, if they have spare Mugic counters, can then cast that same Mugic again. Refrain of Denial dispels target overworld and underworld Mugic, and most of the most dangerous Mugic in the game are most often overworld and underworld Mugic, like Song of Revival, Cannon of Casualty, Discord of Disarming, Song of Resurgence, Caster's War Song, the overworld Refrain of Denial, all that stuff. Then we have Elemental Effigy. Choose target creature. It has at least one element type. If it has at least one element type, it loses an element type of your choice until end of turn. Otherwise, it cannot move until end of turn. So if you're using that on a creature that has no element types, then it can't move, basically like Song of Stasis. But if it does have an element type, you can make them lose an element type, which can cripple most decks, because many decks rely heavily on an element type of some form or another. Then we also have Geo Flourish for 15 heal for any of them, because all of them except for Macrobon has at least earth or water. And then we have Anthem of Stone. This is if Ambalox gets in a fight, or if Macrobon gets in a fight, he's screwed anyway. But this is for if Ambalox gets in a fight, you can give him Earth. You can give one of the other guys Earth 5 to help you get the kill faster. Or just in case someone uses a Mugic or ability that, or even location, which eliminates your element type. This way you can easily get it back. Now let's go over locations. Another battle gear that I'll go over what I was considering later. So we have Foothold Assault Trench, Ropa Shack Chime Grid, So obviously, also once you give Macrobon a Mugic counter with Ropashak Chime Grid, you can infect another creature. Then we have 2 Hive Galleries, because the initiative is Earth. Power attacks do 5 less damage, and Courage attacks do 5 more damage. 2 Gloomuk Swamp, initiative Courage. Earth attacks deal 5 more damage, fire attacks deal 5 less. So this deck is going to be pretty effective against Underworlders, it seems. Silchaw's Mine, initiative Courage. Attacks that would deal more than 20 damage to a creature with Earth deal 20 instead. So basically like a location that has a Zerum Armor effect. The hope is that your opponent doesn't have Earth, and of course if they do, you can always use Elemental Effigy to get rid of it. Then we have the Infectorium. Initiative Courage. At the beginning of combat, deal 15 damage to infected engaged non-Danian creature. And then we have 2 Mount Pillar Reservoirs liberated. Initiative Danian. When Mount Pillar Reservoir is revealed, each player infects an uninfected creature he or she controls. Now, what I would have liked to have had is instead of Foothold Assault Trench, although it makes all your guys deal 5 extra damage. The problem is, on most occasions, the decks you're going to be fighting are also going to be all one tribe, because usually one tribe works very well in sync with each other. So I would have liked to replace Foothold Assault Trench with another Infectorium. Or maybe a Hive Gallery or a Mount Pillar Reservoir liberated with another Infectorium, because that would have been huge. So now the attack deck. We have 2 Tecta Strikes for 30 damage if your guy has... All the guys have Earth. The problem would be stat check Courage 60 for Jaw, because Jaw obviously doesn't have that much. Enlightened Tenacity for 20. Once again, the stat checks. I also made sure to make all of the attacks in here which use Courage are stat checks as opposed to challenges. This is in case because most of the Danians here don't really have incredibly high Courage except for Elhad, and some of them like Jaw have very low Courage. So I didn't want to risk anything by your opponent having a higher Courage than you. Arbor Smash for 5 and to regain Earth with stat check Courage 50. Mineral Mayhem to help Jaw gain 100 Courage so he can use all the Courage attacks, or just 10 base damage, or if you're against a Gantrak deck, it would be very useful. I might decide to replace Arbor Smash with another Mineral Mayhem just because of how useful that would be. 2 Infectious Implosions, 5 Earth damage, and then if the opposing engaged creature is infected, it deals 10 more damage, so that'd be 15 damage. 2 Earth Pulses for another 15. A Petrifying Power. Earth Shape to regain Earth once more. Gravel Grind for 10 and to remove 3 cards from your opponent's discard from the game. Helpful if your opponent is using like a Danian Compost deck or an Underworld deck with like Song of Revival or something similar. Purifying Mud. This deals 5 Earth damage, and then if you have Earth or Water, it deals 5 damage and you gain 5 energy. 2 Spirit Gusts for 5 damage. 2 Sunderground. This is like my first time using an attack like Sunderground, but it's basically here to be like a finisher. It's just 10 damage for 0 build cost, although you do lose Earth. But then there's also Earth Shape, Arbor Smash, and also Anthem of Stone in order to get your Earth back. And then 2 Geyser Gushes, just because I didn't really have anything else that fit. I could replace one of these Geyser Gushes for a Mineral Mayhem that might be a good idea. But 5 earth, 5 water, stat check, courage 5, courage 50, deal 5. So only 3 attacks that use water, and only 2 of them do damage. So now let's go to what I was thinking of. So another possibility is that I could get rid of a 1 build card cost, like another Geyser Gush per se, and replace it with a 0 build cost card like Clean Slide or Petrifying Power. And in replacement, and also to get rid of then something like either, and then to get rid of Tecta Strike, and in replacement I could put in Grounding Grapple, which would do 30 damage like Tecta Strike, but I could also rearrange the top 3 cards in my location deck, which could be very helpful. Another location that I was considering was the Darkened Dunes, just because creatures with Earth would gain range and Swift 1, which could be very useful for the first attack of the game, which is also why I was considering Song of Surprisal. Then there's also Infectious Melody that I was thinking of, because infect 2 target uninfected creatures. The problem is Infectious Melody costs 2 Mugicians, and I don't think that's really a worthwhile trade-in. Then, of course, there's always the fact that maybe I should replace my Danian Refrain of Denial with another Cadence Clash. So the way that, and as I said before, I would prefer for there to be another Infectorium. So now let's go over who should be casting which Mugic. So anyone can cast Strain of Infection. The problem is there's only 4 base Mugicians here, but with Strain of Infection, Macroba will then jump up to 5. So then the later game Mugics, after that effect comes into play, will probably be either one of the Denial Mugics or Anthem of Stone. Probably Anthem of Stone, because your opponent, I don't think, is that likely to eliminate Earth, and there's always 2 attacks in the attack decks that will allow you to get them back. But Anthem of Stone, I should say, probably should be played by Ambalox, because that way he can give himself Earth. The problem also is that Macroba has low energy, so you don't want to... So although he's going to be the main Mugic caster, you don't want to rely on him too much. Weightless Energy Vessel would just stop things like Cannon of Casualty from killing him, but then you can still have creatures' effects or things like the Trident of Treachery could kill him. So I would say that the Mugics don't really have to be placed on specific guys. There isn't really a set way to play them, but Macroba will be your main Mugic caster. So now we've gone over all the different aspects of this deck, how it works. Basically what you want to do is you want to start the battle with either Draz or Jal. This will depend fairly well on what location you have. For example, if your first location is Mount Pillar Reservoir Liberated, then you should definitely infect Draz and then attack with him. But if it's something like the Infectorium, where the creature needs to come into play with infection, then you would want to go in with Jal and then expend Ambalox's water to give your opponent infect. What you want to be doing is every single turn you want to be infecting people with Ambalox by expending water. You don't really need to worry about that with these two, because they will be infecting their opponents anyway. So most likely the first turn of the game, what you're going to be doing is, if you're attacking with either of these guys, then you're either going to be infecting Draz or Lendia to activate their abilities. Then obviously Elhad, although could be a decent fighter, it doesn't really matter if he dies. In fact, in many ways that could help you. And then of course if Lendia is infected, then he will count as a Mandiblor. Then you would also want to infect Jal. And then both of them could get outperform Courage 5. And the problem, of course, then is that Jal has fairly low Courage, so you would want to really put in a Mineral Mayhem. So I might do what I said previously and replace both of these Geyser Gushes. But yeah, that is how this deck works. I was thinking about maybe giving Jal not Jal, but maybe giving Elhad a Plasma Pounder so you could do more location shuffling. I think location shuffling would be very, very useful for this deck, just so you can get your locations like the Infectorium and the Mount Pillar Reservoir out on the field in order to start comboing effects. So Grounds and Grapple would probably be a good thing for me to switch into the deck. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. Please leave in the comments any suggestions you have for how I could alter and improve this deck. And hopefully it won't be an incredibly long time before my next Chaotic video, but no promises. It's been a very hectic and busy summer for me, as you guys may be able to tell from my lack of video uploads. So yeah, guys, thanks again for watching. Goodbye.